Hey, in this video, we are going to be walking through creating a lead tracking system from scratch together. Now, I haven't built this yet, so we're going to be walking through this live. But essentially, if you are having trouble following up with leads, if you're losing track of the status, where those leads are, you can create a simple system through automation tools like Make.com and Google Sheets in order to track the stages and to do so automatically. So the first thing that we're going to do in this video is going to be taking the contact form submission when a new client goes onto your website and they fill out their details. We're going to enter or create a new record in our CRM system. In this case, it's going to be a Google Sheets. And then when that client actually books through our Calendly link, or in this case, it'll be cal.com, it'll also update the status of that lead automatically to meeting booked. Now, if you've watched one of my prior videos, I'll go ahead and link it somewhere up on the top, where we created a automation where when the contact form submission details come through from the website, we're going to automatically tailor and send an email to a qualified lead with the booking information, aka our scheduling link. We don't want to share that link with just about anybody, and so we've pre-qualified them in advance. So the question is, how do we know when that person actually books so that we can follow up with them and we can set up automations there as well. So we're going to build on top of that automation today. So on here on make.com, here's what that automation looks like. So just as a refresher, we have a webhook that will trigger when the form is completed online. So if they go to the website and complete a series of questions, those will automatically come through here. What we're doing is we are separating their name in this module. We're also going to send out a tailored booking link for them that's already completed with their name and email, so they don't have to fill it out. We're also going to tailor an AI response here to address and acknowledge their concerns about the processes that they need to have automated in this case, because we're creating an automation from an AI agency perspective. We're going to sleep for a few minutes and then send out that email because we want to emulate actual human behavior. It'll take a few minutes to actually send an email. So what we're going to do here is we're going to build on top of this existing automation. So I want to keep this a little bit organized. Let's go ahead and just move some of these models up here. And actually what we'll do is we'll create a router. Let's do this. So what a router is in make.com is it allows you to move data through separate paths. This first path will be the autoresponder path. So as soon as they submit that contact form submission, they're going to get an email from us with the booking link. So that's the first path. The second path is going to be, we want to take that same information that we're getting from the contact form, and then we're going to drop that into our CRM so we can keep track of that lead as they move through the sales process. So in this case, we're going to build a simple CRM solution using Google Sheets. So we'll go ahead and create a Google Sheets here. So this is an untitled spreadsheet. We're going to name it, let's say, CRM example. And then we're going to go back to make.com. And let's actually run through a scenario. Let's see if I can disable this route for now, because we don't want to run this automation as we're testing creating the new record in our CRM. Let's go ahead and run this workflow and submit some details through the form. So let's do this. Okay, so the purpose of me going through and filling out some of these details here and actually submitting the form is, number one, just making sure that the webhook actually works and it's capturing the information from this submission. But two, so that we have example data or sample data that we can actually map inside that workflow. Okay, I'm going to leave the phone number blank because that's optional. My business, and then we'll select a budget number. So once we've submitted, you'll see that it's captured the information very quickly. We have a bubble here with the number 1. It means that we've received information, and it happened almost instantaneously, which is great. So you can see here that the form name has been completed, and we also have some submission details, things like when that form was submitted. It was submitted at 4:15 p.m. Eastern. We've got questions inside of the form, and also the answers that I have completed as well. So you can see here I've added my name, company, et cetera, et cetera. So now that we have that, and typically, because we've disabled this flow, it's not going to run that. But what this flow does is, again, it takes that that comment that I wrote about needing to learn about ways to automate my business. AI ingests that information. It creates a tailored response based off of that information, and then it sends out that booking link, right? So in this second flow, what we want to do is actually take the information about the prospective lead and then drop that into our CRM so we can track it and track the status of it. So this is actually going to be very, very simple because we're just going to be doing this within a Google Sheets. So let's go ahead and in this next module on the second route, look for Google Sheets, and we are going to simply add a row. And before we do that, actually, let's head back over to the Google Sheet itself. So CRM example, and we'll want to add headers here to organize the data. So let's say name, company, website, areas to automate, notes, budget. We've got 3, 4, 5, 6. I think phone number was one of them. And then what was the last item? So we hop back over to the answers or questions. We have the budget, the notes, the phone number, the email. I think that's what we're missing here. So name and email. So these are going to be our headers in our sheet. Okay, so now that we have the headers, let's head back over to make.com. And the next step that we want to do is actually select the CRM example spreadsheet so that we can connect it here and integrate it here in make.com. So if you have not connected your Google account already, you'll want to click add and then simply just sign in with Google. In this case, I'm already logged in, so I'll just select the appropriate login. And then we're going to look at my drive, spreadsheet ID. Let's click here to choose the file. And we'll search for CRM example. That's going to come up. Awesome. And then the sheet name is just sheet number 1 because we only have that one sheet. Table does contain headers, so we'll leave that as yes. And you can see now that the headers are being pulled in. The name, the email, the company, website, and so on and so forth. And so now this really just becomes a mapping exercise. We already have the data from the webhook. Now we just need to map it into the corresponding fields in the spreadsheet. So in this case, the name. So we're going to go through this data set here. So if you, again, look at the output coming in from the webhook or the contact form submission. Now, if we click on submission and questions, you can see that there are 8 questions associated with that contact form. Now, if I go down into the first collection in this questions array, you can see that you can see the question being asked. So select all areas where automation could save you time or energy. And then the value is the actual answer. So same thing here where the question is, what's your full name? You can see the answer type, which is short answer. And then the value is Tamwin, which is my name, right? So that's going to be dynamic information that's going to be updated every single time someone new goes onto your website and fills out this form. So back over here to mapping. Now, for the name, we want to go through and find that questions array we did before. But if you click on a value, you can see that the only question that we're able to select here is the one where it says, hey, this helps make sure we're a good match. And then here's the budget. What is your budget answer, right? 3,000 plus. What we want to do is we want to grab the, let's see here. We want to grab the value of a specific question, right? And that question is going to be 2. So if we head back, and why is that? It's because we head back over here to the output. If we go to submission, questions, and then the second question or the second collection in this array, you can see that this corresponds with the name, right? Item number 2, and the value is Tamwin, and that's what we want. So you're just going to go through basically and fill in all the details here so that we can copy and paste and just update all these. And we have up to column H. So we'll change the value here. Email, I think was, and you may have to go back and forth a little bit here. So I think company name was number 3, website was 4, email was 5. Okay, so email is 5, company was 3, website was item number 4, collection number 4, areas to automate was the first question, notes was 7, budget was 8, and if you want to make this easier on yourself, make sure to create the columns in the correct order. I think phone was number 6 here. So let's go ahead and test this out. Let's make sure this is working properly. We're going to run this automation and we're going to wait for new data and resubmit this form. So let's try that again. And we're just going to write test there. Let's do this again, submit. Okay, so now that information is coming through. We've captured that new form details, the new form details, and then you can see that it's going down the second path because that first path has been disabled. And we now have an output for the Google Sheets module. So if we take a look at that, we insert a new row. You can see updates here, but let's just go ahead and check that spreadsheet to make sure that information was entered correctly. So now let's just zoom in a little bit here. You can see that the information about that contact form has been entered. You can see my name has been entered here, email, company, website, areas to automate, lead capture and follow-up, notes, test, and then budget is 3,000. We didn't enter a phone number, so it hasn't appeared here. So this is how you can start to create just a simple tracking tool to ensure that all of your leads coming through are actually being captured in a system. In this case, a very simple Google Sheets system. Okay, so one thing or I forgot to do starting out was actually just create a status column. And so I want to do that real quickly and add status to the end. Now, when the lead comes through, we can indicate which status we'd like it to be. So in this case, maybe it's just intake. And the way that we want to set this up on the lead form submission is, let's go ahead and go back over to the make.com automation into the Google Sheets module. And we want to refresh the fields here. So you see now that we have that status column in column I. So you see it corresponds with column letter I here, status. And then we just want to simply type in the status here, which is intake. So when a new lead comes in through the website, the status will be intake. Now the next thing you can do here is actually create the fields. So this could be turned into a drop-down. So intake is one of the options, and let's just slow that down real quickly. If you click on the cell itself, right click and head down into the settings, you can see that there's ability to turn that into a drop-down field. So you have a predefined set of statuses that you can track for each one of these leads. So right now we've got intake. We can create a few more. So on the right-hand side, you can see that there's a menu that opens up here. You can see that intake is the first item. We can add another item here, which is meeting booked. You can add another one for proposal sent, and then maybe proposal signed. So very simple. You might have more statuses here, but we'll just keep it simple for now. We're not going to allow multiple selections, so we'll leave that as is. And you can also change the colors as well. So meeting booked, proposal sent, and then proposal signed. You can also have one for proposal rejected, or if you want to do closed won or closed lost, it's really up to you on the verbiage. Okay, so that's that first part of the automation. So now if we look at the make.com, let's save this real quickly. The status is going to be intake. We've got a very simple workflow here. So when the contact form submission comes to the website, we're not only going to send them a timely, responsive, and also tailored email to thank them for submitting their information, but also to give them the scheduling link for them to book a meeting. We're also going to create a record in our CRM for tracking purposes. Now, the last step is to set up an automation where we can track whether or not they've actually booked a meeting with us through our calendar link, right? And so let's go ahead and add a third path here with our router. And in order to keep this clean, we can just go down to the auto align. That'll make everything nice and neat. So in this example, I'm going to show you how to set this up with cal.com. If you're using other similar tools like Calendly, they have webhooks where you can automatically capture information from booked meetings. So let's take a look at this. We're going to build this live together. I haven't set this up for my business yet, so this is going to be new for me as well. So let's go to cal.com, which is my scheduling tool. And we're going to take a look at the different event types here. I have one that's specifically created for introduction calls that is actually tied to this automation here. So if I head over to the make.com automation again, you can see that in the email that goes out to the client, the booking link that is sent is the Dawn Again intro call. So if I head over to the intro call link, this is where I can set up a automation specific to any meetings booked through this link. So in cal.com, what we have here is the ability to set up a webhook. Very similar to the form creation. So booking created. Let's go ahead and actually, I misspoke. So what we want to do is instead of creating another router item, this is the end of this workflow. Let's go ahead and save this. And then we are going to go back and create a brand new scenario. Let's turn this on. So go to scenarios and we're going to create a brand new scenario. And in this scenario, we're going to create a brand new webhook as well. So it's going to be webhook, custom webhook. And there's a few webhooks to choose from, but you definitely want to create something new. And a webhook is really just a URL that we can paste into cal.com so that it connects the two systems. So we'll do new meeting booked, cal.com. And then I typically like to add a date so I know when I set this up. So it's the 21st. Save. And then we're just going to copy this URL address, this make.com URL address, to our clipboard. And when we hop back to cal.com, we'll set up a webhook. So I'm going to just turn this off for now because I'm not sure which one this is related to. We're going to create a new connection from scratch. So we're going to click new webhook. And then the subscriber URL is the URL that we just copied from make.com. So we'll paste that right in here. And we're going to enable the webhook. Now you can see that there are quite a few options as far as what can actually trigger a webhook. So if the booking has been canceled, if the booking has been created, booking has been rejected, requested, so on and so forth. Now we just want to trigger the automation when the booking has been created. Okay, great. And let's do one thing. We're going to test the webhook just to make sure that's working properly. So let's run this automation. Save this first. Run the automation. So now we come back over to cal.com and ping test. You can see that the webhook response has passed and the status is 200. That's a good sign. Now if we head back over here to make.com, you can see that it received some information from the test. Things like attendees, and there's an example here, John Doe with the email address, organizer, language, and it even brings in the meeting booking. So in this case, it's just a test. So it added the start time and end time as the exact time it is now. But with an actual calendar booking, it'll bring in the actual date of the booking plus the start and end times, right? Okay, so now that we know that is working properly, let's go ahead and create this webhook. Cool, and we can always edit this. Actually, yeah, we'll just leave that as is. So heading back over to Make. Now, what do we want to do with this information once we receive it inside of make.com? Well, we want to check to see, first of all, is the lead already captured in our CRM system? So sometimes you might have a scenario where not every single prospect or potential client that you're working with goes to your lead form or your form capture, or your website to actually book with you. Sometimes you're just talking with somebody and you send them the calendar link to book with you. So in that scenario, we want to make sure that those leads are already entered in the system. So what we're going to do here is, number one, first check to see if the lead is added. If it isn't, we're going to create a new lead in the system. If it is already created, then we're not going to add the lead. So let's work with that. Let's work with that logic first. So let's go ahead and do a router. And in this case, we will name this path. Just go ahead and click on it. Lead exists. And then the condition that we're looking for. So if it'll likely be the email address, right? So if the email address And actually what I think we need to do here is go into our Google Sheets module and check out some of these actions here. What we want to do is search the rows, right? Returns results matching the given criteria. So we'll go ahead and search the CRM. We'll click on the account. The spreadsheet ID is CRM example. Sheet name is sheet number 1. And we want to filter for email. And we want to find to see if this email exists. Let me double check one thing. Equal to okay, let's try this. Does it exist or not? So let's actually do this. We're gonna unlink this, and before we add the router, we just first want to check to see if that email already exists in the CRM. So let's run this. Let's see, order by, ascending limit. We'll limit it to 1. Let's save this and see if that works. Let's run. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into cal.com and actually test and enter my information to see if it'll actually let us know if that email exists or not. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and book something for tomorrow. And I'm going to use my email, the same exact email address that I used earlier, which was this one. Okay. So I'm going to book that. We're going to come back over to make.com. You can see here that it's captured that information, right? So in the output from the webhook, you can see a ton of details about that person, myself, who just booked the call. So you can see the booked URL, the title of that booking as well, description, any event details, so on and so forth. And then what we're really looking for is just making sure that this automation is actually checking to see. Output, so you can see here that it did capture, it did recognize that there's already a lead in the system, and it's returning all the information about that specific lead, and it's also telling us which row this lead exists in. So if you come back over to the CRM example, you see here that row number 2 already has the email address in here. So that's exactly what we want it to do. Now, this is where we're going to add the router, because we're going to go down 2 paths, right? So if that lead already exists, then we're simply just going to update the status of that lead to meeting booked. But if the lead does not exist, we're going to enter the details of the lead, and then we're going to update the status to meeting booked. So now we're going to want to create a router. Let's delete this. And this is where the filtering comes through. So the first one is if that lead already exists, right? Lead exists. And the condition is, now if we take a look at the output, here you have bundle number 1, you have a little details about that lead that already exists. You can see that the total number of bundles is 1 and the bundle order position is 1. And so we could guess that if there's a bundle that exists, if there's one bundle that's returned to us, meaning that lead exists, it probably means that. And so if it returns a bundle to us, that means that that lead exists. So our logic can be, if the total number of bundles is equal to, and this is a text operator, so we want to change this to a numeric operator, 1, then the lead exists. Now on the other side, we want to set up the filter on this path. So if the lead doesn't exist, the condition here will be the total number of bundles is not equal to 1. So let's save this. And before we go ahead and test this again, so I don't have to create another cal.com booked meeting, let's finish the logic here, or let's finish the workflow. So if the lead exists, we don't need to add a new row. We simply just need to update the status. So let's go ahead and go to Google Sheets. We want to update a row. Okay, choose a file. CRM example, sheet number 1. And then the row number, we're not going to hard code this. We're going to map the row number here. So again, if the lead exists, it's going to return us a row number. So we'll drop that row number right here. Again, we have the column headers. We don't want to change any of this other information because that should be good to go. What we do want to change, however, is the status. So I believed it was booked meeting. Let's just double check to make sure that that's what we added here for the status. So it's actually meeting booked. Let's come back here and go meeting booked. Okay. And then we'll save that. All right, so on the other side, if the lead doesn't exist, we first want to add the row. So similar to before, we're going to add a row. And this time we're not going to have all the details that we did when we had the website contact form submitted, so that's okay. All right, so we are going to, again, find the spreadsheet. Sheet is sheet number 1. And then we're going to update the details here. So what do we actually have coming in from the cal.com booked meeting, right? We do have their name. So let's see where this one would be, attendees. So we have the name here. We do have the email. We don't have any of this other information, right? Company, website, areas to automate, notes. We do have notes. Let's go ahead and add that in here. Let's see here. Additional notes right here. We don't have the budget, we don't have the phone number, and then the status is going to be meeting booked. So similar to the top path, we still want to update that status. Okay, and that is all we have here. Now let's go ahead and test this again. Let's go ahead and save this automation first. We'll name it meeting booked, update CRM to meeting booked. So we're going to test this twice. We're first going to test this again to capture whether or not an existing lead has booked a meeting and then update that status. And then secondly, we're going to book a meeting with a new email address and a new name. So one that doesn't already exist in the system, to see if it'll create that new row in our CRM and then update the status as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go and all right, we're going to book another meeting. And this time we'll use that same email address. Confirm. Okay, and so this is an existing lead. I already used this email once or twice before. Information is coming through that webhook right away. It's going through the Google Sheets and it's saying, okay, I do find that row, the lead already exists. They exist in row number 2. And we're going to go down the path where the lead exists. And then we're going to update that row. So let's double check the CRM example. You can see now that the status has been updated to meeting booked, which is exactly what we wanted. Now let's try this one more time. And I'm going to enter an email that hasn't been utilized just yet. So let's change the name to Bert. And I'll just use this email address here because it's an actual email address of mine. And then we will make sure that this automation is running first. And then confirm. Okay, you see it's coming through and something is going on in here. We can see that it's going through the lead exists path, which is not the case. Let's see what we get here. Techwithtam.com. Okay, first, what is coming through here? We've got the payload, the attendees. So Bert and tam@donagain.ai. It's going through, and for some reason it's finding and returning this row, which is not what we want. So let's double check this. We are going through and searching for the email. Exists. Okay, and what we actually need to do here is changes to a text operator, right? Equal to case insensitive, just in case there's like a capitalized letter in there. We want to make sure that we're capturing that, right? And what I did wrong here before was that I didn't actually map the email that's coming in from the webhook. So let's go ahead and do that. So the email is coming through from the attendees, and we want to map the actual email address that's coming through. You see that that first module is pulsating. And let's save this and let's try that again. So let's run. All right, so we have Bert. We'll leave that email address as is and confirm. Okay, so now that we've actually created this Google Sheets module and filtered it properly, we're actually searching for the email address that's coming from cal.com to see if it actually matches any row in Google Sheets. And you can see here that the output now is giving us a number of bundles, which is 0 because it did not find that match. And so it's going to go down this second path where the lead doesn't exist because the number of bundles is 0. It's not 1. And then it's going to create a row. So let's look at the CRM example here, and you can see that the name has been updated and the email address has been added. Now we don't have this other information again because it's not coming through the form, but the status is meeting booked. So that's exactly what we want. So I hope you enjoyed this one. This is a simple example of how you can set up an automated lead tracking system that will take leads from your website or coming in from your booking link and create a system where you can track them easily, make sure that you're following them through the sales process, and even updating the statuses automatically. If you like this one, please make sure to follow, like, and subscribe. I'm going to be releasing many more videos just like this. Thanks for watching and hope to see you in the next video.